Now, if you are here because you watched the How to Improve Your Public Speaking Part 1 video, welcome back for Part 2. If you have not seen that and you've just found this video by chance, hi, my name is Catherine. I'm a business English teacher and I work with intermediate to advanced level students. I created a How to Improve Your Public Speaking video Part 1, which goes over dealing with accent bias, comparing native to non-native speakers and listeners, and creating listener-friendly communication. So definitely go and watch that one first, because this one won't make sense if you haven't seen that one to begin with. But the reason I split it into two is because there's a lot of information to go over, and I know for some people they have limited time in the day to study English, so I didn't want to make an hour-long video. For those of you that have watched that first one, as I said, welcome back, and let's get straight into it. So the last thing we were talking about is the way you present your speech, and I mentioned intonation. Now, intonation is the way your voice goes up and down, higher and lower as you speak, the way your sentence sounds. So for example, typically when we are pausing to go on to the next sentence, our intonation is smaller. There's less difference between the end of our sentence and the rest of our sentence. I am about to finish this sentence and continue this one. So notice my intonation changes a little. I'm about to finish this sentence. It goes up a little because I'm about to say something else. However, when you are finishing a sentence to move on to something completely different, a completely different topic, the intonation is more noticeable. For example, this is the end of this paragraph. And now let's start paragraph 2. So this is the end of this paragraph. Notice my intonation, the sound of my voice goes down, it becomes lower. And then I go on to the next sentence. My voice drops, which suggests I'm changing the subject. However, when I want to end my presentation or thought process completely, the intonation drops with the greatest difference, and you can really feel the end of the sentence, the drop in the sentence. I have been talking for 20 minutes now. I have finished all of my remarks. So notice that the end of my sentence starts to step down. It gets lower as I go through the sentence. It shows that I'm nearing the end of what I'm saying. It gives the listener that idea that this is the end. She has finished talking. If you just end by making your voice softer and kind of trailing off at the end of your presentation, you lose the power of what you have said. But if you end with stress and confidence, but with a clear intonation that you are finishing this sentence, this thought, this paragraph, this speech, the end of your presentation sounds much more powerful. So compare these two examples. And this shows that we need to make a change. Any questions? This is an example of a soft, forgetful ending. And this shows that we need to make a change. Any questions? So I've said the exact same sentence, but the pauses and the intonation of my voice going up and down shows the audience that this is a powerful ending. I've finished what I'm saying. It's much more engaging, it's much more powerful, and it probably convinces them that they want to ask a question. You are a person that can give them the answer to their question. Now, changing your intonation takes a lot of practice. If you are not used to this, it can be very difficult. And in my last video, part 1, I started talking about note-taking on your script. And this is exactly what I mean. I would make notes on your script of where to go up and where to come down in your sentence. Do you need to make a pause to identify that the sentence is starting to end? Do you need to end on a question? These are all notes you can make in your script alongside the actual words you want to say. So when you're making your notes, you can use a full stop or an exclamation point or whatever it is that you feel will remind you when you're giving your presentation to stop and slow down and change the sound of your voice to identify the end of the presentation. I personally would do full stops like I have done in this example. Without those full stops on my notes, I might just read that sentence and then afterwards realize, oh, that's not a very confident ending. So note how you're going to present it as well as what you are going to present. The final thing to note about intonation is often when you go up at the end of a sentence, it means it's a question. So for example, if I said to you, my name is Catherine, my name is Catherine. It's a question. Am I Catherine? Am I sure I'm Catherine? It's not confident. This shows that many people prefer working from home. I'm questioning it. I don't know that it shows that. I'm questioning what I'm saying. But if I say, my name is Catherine, this shows that many people prefer working from home. There's no question, I'm confident in the information I am portraying. You can also use this technique in the opposite way when you want your audience to think about something. I personally think this is a fantastic way to move forward for the future. But is there something else we could do? I go up. I'm asking the audience. Of course, maybe I don't want an answer from them, but I want them to think if there's something else we could do. There is something called the held inflection, which is when you want to hold your audience's attention. So think about when you list something. I'm going to buy strawberries, apples, bananas, and tomatoes. You are waiting for the next thing on the list. That held inflection, that long sound, strawberries, that's me thinking or pretending in this case to think about what I'm saying, what I'm going to say next. You also want to know what else I'm buying. So we can use this in our speech. And again, you can note it on your script. So even though you have practiced this again and again and have planned it into your script for your audience, it seems very spontaneous and in the moment. It comes across as confident and very intriguing, interesting. But you and I both know we have planned this from the minute you started writing your script. So let me give you an example. The benefits of improving your English language skills can be as impactful as allowing you to access new job opportunities, create new connections, allow you to live abroad, and of course, self-improvement. Now notice I didn't pause when giving you that information, but I extended how long it took me to say each word. The audience is interested, they want to know more, they want to know what's next on the list. Now you can note this in your script any way you want to, whatever is easiest for you. I personally do the 3 dots, 3 full stops, which is called an ellipsis, to show myself when I'm reading this to extend the word, to remind myself that that's what I want to do at this point in the script, is extend the word. But you could do it however you wanted. I've put some examples on the screen. You could do the 3 dots like I have. You could do an arrow over the top to show to extend the word. You could physically extend the word by adding more letters, or you could space out the word. Whichever way feels comfortable for you, and so that you remember to put this held inflection in. Now, a teacher would probably tell you to slow down in order to be understood. But in all honesty, unless it's really difficult to understand you, the speed of your presentation doesn't matter. You can speak fast, you can speak slow. What matters more is that your pronunciation is clear. And the magic clue? Pauses. Exactly as I just did then. Pauses show your audience where to think for themselves, where to question the information, show them which part of your speech to focus on, and keep them interested. If I speak really fast, but then I stop, this pause helps you to understand that I want you to stop. I want you to think with me, stop with me. I'll give you another example. Using a lot of technology in the classroom could cause issues such as relying on technology for every answer. Now notice, because I paused after could cause issues such as, this kind of makes the listener start thinking, oh, what could this cause? And they are also coming up with their own issues that this could cause. So they are following along with what you are saying instead of just sitting mindlessly listening to what you are saying. Now, pauses can also make you sound more spontaneous. So even though you've practiced this speech 100 times in the mirror, practice all of the things we talked about and practice making it sound like you are being spontaneous. For example, if I wanted to talk about hydroponics. Now, for those of you that don't know, hydroponics is growing fruits and vegetables using water. No soil is needed. So if I wanted to talk to you about hydroponics, so that was entirely scripted. What I just said then was entirely scripted. It's written in front of me on my screen. But the pause that I gave before hydroponics makes it sound like it's something I've just thought of, an example I've just come up with. It makes it seem like I'm thinking and then giving meaning to that thought. This makes your speech seem more human, more realistic, and therefore more engaging and easier for the listener. Compare that to, I'm going to tell you what hydroponics is now. So hydroponics is, it's very, samey. There's no personality. You may lose the listener at this point. You can pause before any word and you can add that held inflection we talked about earlier. For example, notice I lengthen the word for and I pause. It makes it seem like I'm thinking. Or maybe you could... So again, held inflection with the pause makes it sound like I'm thinking, even though it's written on the script in front of me. If you've been watching my videos for a long time, you may notice I use so and now at the beginning of almost every sentence. This is a very bad habit because in written English, it's wrong to start a sentence that way. You would never write a sentence starting with now or so unless you were talking about the time. Now I am. However, in spoken English, it makes your speech sound more spontaneous and more on the spot. And again, as I keep saying, therefore easier for the listener. So when writing your speech, add so in to make it seem like you are thinking. Now, don't do this all the time. Notice I use both so and now. It makes it sound like I'm thinking about these things on the spot, but again, they are written on my script. And lengthen those words, that held inflection. Now, the one thing about climate change is, so what I believe we need to do is practice sounding more conversational with all of these tricks that I've just given you. It makes the listener feel like they are part of a conversation rather than just being lectured at. You can also repeat words if you need to, or use synonyms of the same word to create emphasis, to create drama. Notice I just did exactly that. Drama and emphasis mean the same thing, but it highlights the point I'm trying to make. This can really, really help with emphasis and highlighting main topics. So notice I repeated really. It doesn't sound unnatural or strange. It sounds like I'm emphasizing. Now, the last thing we're going to look at today is how to reduce speaking anxiety. And I'm probably the worst person to give you this information because, as I said in my previous video, I get very nervous in public speaking situations. I'll give you a funny example. I was recently at a teacher's seminar and I was asked to explain what active learning was. And I know what active learning is. I knew the answer, had the answer in my head. For some reason, the speaker wanted me to stand up. And this was where the nerves kicked in because I was suddenly higher than everybody else and everyone was looking at me. And I was so nervous, I couldn't get out what I had in my head and it made me look like I didn't know the answer. So maybe you don't need to come to me for lessons on how to reduce anxiety, but I am going to give you a few tips and tricks that you can use and I have tried to use in the past in order to reduce this anxiety. Now, the first one is preparation and practice. And of course, this means practice your speech on your own in your room, but also be aware of the situation you're going to be in. Will you have a microphone? Will there be 500 people, 50 people? Will you have a stage to walk up and down on? Is it one podium so you have to stand still? Will you have a screen behind you that people will be focused on? Know your surroundings and practice in those surroundings, and that will really help you feel prepared on the day. If you feel nervous looking at people, and that's the issue for you, you don't have to look at anyone specifically in the room. You can look at someone's nose. So instead of looking in their eyes, you look at their nose, and to them, it looks like you're looking at them. Or if you have a row of people, look in between the seats. So both of these people feel like you're looking at the other person, but actually you're looking in between the seats. Or maybe find a point right at the very back of the room and focus on that point. If it's an online conference, look just below your camera. So you're not staring the camera in the eye, in the face, just below your camera, so it feels like you're just talking to yourself. Deep breaths. Now this is a good way before the presentation. Take some deep breaths, prepare yourself. But if at any point in the presentation you feel you're losing your train of thought, or you're losing track, or you've gone off script and you're rambling, stop. Take a breath. Sorry, let me just start again. And start again. And the last tip I'm going to give you is acknowledge that anxiety about speaking in another language that is not your native language. You can even use it as a funny kind of joke or quip at the beginning of your speech. Sorry everyone, I hope you'll be able to understand me today. This is my 4th language, so I might not be as fluent as you would expect. Or, if you know the group of people, this is my 4th language, so if I make any mistakes, don't call me out on them. I'd like to see you speak 4 languages. Now, of course, that's a bit rude if you don't know someone, but if it's your colleagues at work, you can definitely bring up the fact that this is not your first native language and use that to your strength, as I said in the first video. Don't let it be something you are embarrassed of. It's something you can do that other people cannot do. I have a student who can speak 7 languages. That's incredible. And I've never once heard her apologize for her level of English because she can speak 7 languages. I can speak 2. So who is she to apologize to me when I can only speak 2 languages? Use some funny idioms, cultural differences in your speech to recognize that you come from a different culture, different country, different language. That in itself is very interesting. Maybe you have a word. Let's say, for example, you are a Thai person giving a speech to a group of international people, and you're trying to recognize that we need to keep going, keep fighting. In Thai, they have a phrase which is su su, and it means keep fighting, keep going. So I would say the main takeaway from this is that we need to keep trying, keep focused, keep moving forwards. In my own language, in my Thai language, we would say su su, and that means to keep fighting. So su su, everyone. You can do something like that, you know? Incorporate your language into the speech you are giving, but just make sure it makes sense and the listeners will understand what you are trying to explain. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope you learned some things here. As I said, you do need to watch part 1 to come and watch part 2. So if you've done it the other way round, that's absolutely fine, but definitely go and check out part 1 now. Thank you for being here today and for supporting me. Like this video or share it with a friend if you found it helpful, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.